Alice again?"
I heard Edward mumble from the bed with his mouth full. I looked up from the iPod and he was still staring at my hair. I nodded my head at him, making my curls bounce some more. "Yeah," I cleared my throat softly. "We spent the day talking about Jasper. Catching up, you know." I shrugged nonchalantly, trying to save myself a shred of dignity, and focused on the iPod again, praying my face wasn't still red as a tomato. I heard him hum quietly, either at the food or my question.
"They're attached at the fucking hip. It's disgusting."
He chewed. I chuckled, because they probably were. Quite literally. Attached at the hips. I grimaced a little. I blew a lock of hair out my face, regretting leaving out the painfully necessary clips. So, I started trying to distract my mind from dwelling on Elise's sex life. "What are you doing for holiday vacation?" I asked, finally looking up at Edward devouring the Alfredo enthusiastically. He furrowed his brows while chewing the noodles, then shrugged.
"You?"
he asked after he swallowed, spinning his forks around more noodles. I looked down at the iPod and glanced up at him through my lashes, batting them a bit and feeling ridiculous. "Alice is taking me shopping someday this week. Other than that, probably nothing." I shrugged softly, watching his eyes grow wide a bit. I was afraid I was being too obvious implementing the eye moves with the hair so soon, so I quickly focused back on the iPod, probably flaming red. He was silent while I knitted my eyebrows together at a particularly eerie rendition of all the pretty little horses playing on the iPod. I was briefly panicked that he had found some kind of loophole to my humming, before I realized he was tired when I got back. So I figured it didn't work. Which was understandable, because the song sounded downright disturbing. I wondered idly who would play something so creepy for their child.
"We should do something,"
Edward said quietly from the bed. I snapped my head up, making all my curls bounce over my hoodie. He was looking into the container of food intently, poking at the noodles with his fork, and not meeting my gaze. And I was surely gaping. I let the gaping subside, trying not to get my hopes up. "Like what?" I hedged, trying not to sound nearly as hopeful as I was. He furrowed his brows at his Alfredo, and raked his fingers through his hair.
"I don't fucking know,"
he mumbled, and then paused, letting out what appeared to be a sigh.
"Maybe you could come with me to Port Angeles."
He whirled his noodles around his fork.
"Help me update the book collection, or some shit."
He shrugged, plunging his fork into his mouth with much more force than necessary, and still not meeting my gaze. I was stunned. Edward and I had never been seen together in public, and had only talked in the daylight once, behind the school. "Yeah," I blurted, my face getting hotter at all the giddiness that was rising in me. "I'd like that." I smiled down at the iPod a little, trying not to seem nearly as happy about the whole thing as I actually was. I felt so much like Alice trying to seem indifferent towards Jasper. I inwardly rolled my eyes at myself. After a few moments of silence, I chanced to peek up through my lashes at Edward, and he was staring at me intensely, still chewing. When I met his gaze, I saw him swallow heavily, and nod, shifting his attention to the container of Alfredo once again. We were silent for the remainder of his meal. Edward was enjoying his Alfredo quite thoroughly, and I was pondering over all the new developments, wondering exactly what they meant. I was trying not to read too much into it. And probably failing rather miserably.
Edward's point of view. It was the shiny fucking girls. She knew how much I liked those girls. There were 3 fucking pages of them in the sketchbook. In fact, they were the last 3 pages in there. She had to have known. Which could only mean one thing. My girl was trying to look pretty for me. It was so fucking obvious. The little blushes just confirmed it. I could write off the fucking delicious Alfredo easily. She was just doing it because she was gone for so long, and she knew I was starving. But only one thing could explain the shiny fucking girls. And not only did she get pretty for me, but she looked up at me through her eyelashes again, and batted them with a small smile. And that just fucking sealed it for me. She was fucking flirting. And then I realized it wasn't the first time. It was obvious that the first time she did the shiny fucking curls, she was flirting with me then. Which meant that the night before she left for Phoenix, she wasn't kissing me for some distraction. She did it because it was me. I was wondering, while I was eating the fucking delicious Alfredo, like it held the key to my existence, exactly how long she had felt that way about me, and how many times I had fucked up because I never realized it. Maybe I could even trace it back to the party, when she asked me about the strawberry blonde, and wanted to know if I thought she was pretty. The harder I thought about it, it even explained the whole Stanley situation. She had to hear about me fucking Stanley. She was fucking jealous. Even the first kiss made more sense. The way she basically fucking roped me into doing it. It even explained Thanksgiving, when she let me put my arms around her, and she stayed and got as close to me as possible. Maybe I could even trace it all the way back to the gazebo, when I first attempted to tell her about Stanley. And the more I traced it back, the more fucking stupid I felt for not seeing it all sooner. The epiphany almost made me choke on my fucking noodles. My girl never had to switch for me, and I was so busy trying to keep mine off, I never fucking realized it. And because I was letting my girl lead me, I had to make a move too. She had made so many small moves that I needed a bigger one to make up for them all. Thankfully she left me a window right as she was trying to flirt. It felt like I was doing shit, so ass backwards. We already slept in the same bed every night. We had already kissed and made out. And just now, I was trying to take her out on some fucking quasi-date. Confusing was the fucking understatement of the century. Then there was the whole dilemma of where to take her. I couldn't do it in Forks, my ass would get caught, and it would find its way around town in an hour. I wasn't ready for all that shit. I was still pretty fucking positive that Brandon would castrate me. I don't even think Jazz could deter her. Port Angeles was my only option. And my girl liked books. And I'd probably spend the whole fucking day staring at her shiny fucking curls anyways. Something told me she'd be wearing them. Then when I asked, I was worried I was reading more into it. Forcing the words out and looking like a complete idiot. But she said yes. Then she did that thing again. My epiphany was spot on. I was finally done with the fucking delicious Alfredo, so I put the container beside the bed, and chanced to peek at Bella on the sofa. She was staring at my iPod and still fucking blushing. It made me smirk. Even all the blushes made more sense. Thank you. It was fucking delicious, I said, sincerely, settling back into the bed. She finally met my gaze and smiled, so I gave her my crooked smile, the one I knew she'd liked. And just like the last two times, her eyes lit up and she blushed harder. It was almost too fucking easy. She quickly darted her eyes back to the iPod. And I really wanted to sketch my girl's shiny fucking curls and talk to her more, but I was tired as hell, still catching up on sleep. Tired? I asked, not wanting to cut into her music time. She looked up at me and nodded, making her curls bounce everywhere, and I was still gaping at them. And really kind of fucking impatient to feel them in my hands. She removed the earbuds and set the iPod down on the sofa, pushing herself up and grabbing her bag. She shuffled to the bathroom with it, and I just kept staring at her curls, watching them bounce with every step she took. She was so fucking beautiful. While she was in the bathroom I wondered when would be a good time to tell her that. How fucking beautiful I thought she was. Bella was a girl after all. I figured they liked hearing shit like that every now and again. It wouldn't be inappropriate. In fact, if I had enough faith in my epiphany, I could even go so far as to say she would fucking love to hear some shit like that from me specifically. 10 minutes later my girl walked out of the bathroom in her pajamas, bouncing her curls around her white t-shirt. Her arms didn't look obscene to me now. Even they looked beautiful. She shuffled her way to the bed, while I went to change into my pajamas. When I walked in the bathroom and closed the door, I glanced at the little blue toothbrush, and I wondered if it didn't have something to do with this whole epiphany too. But then I reasoned it was just a fucking toothbrush. Definitely reading too much into shit. I walked out, glanced at Bella in bed waiting for me, and slid the covers down. Determined not to let the epiphany make shit awkward for me, I slid comfortably under the covers.